Hello there, and welcome again to Gene and Roger Talk Movies. We're talking about Gene's favorite, A24, and I think it's fair to say this is a different A24. We're talking about Lamb. Gene, initial thoughts?
Lamb. Well, A24, production studio or organization based out of New York. And, certainly they try their best to finance and to promote movies that that are entertaining and push movies in new and different directions. And, doing that, obviously sometimes, you're going to have great successes. Like, for example, like they've A24, they've won Academy Awards for Best Picture, like for Room, and so, but then also sometimes you end up with movies that they tried their best. I'm not necessarily saying that this is one of those. I think this movie has some very good ideas, bringing up some. I think we talked about with another A24, Saint Maud, while ago, but I think this movie brings up the topic of grief, like extreme grief, like what does a person do when you experience extreme trauma in your life. Trauma, of course, that doesn't kill you, but it hurts you tremendously. And in a way, I think one of the largest traumas we as humans can go through is, if you're a parent, the death of a child. And this movie explores, but there are other ways people can undergo great trauma. I remember listening to this podcast where this one young man, he was in New York and he was stabbed. I don't know if I talked about this in the other movie or not, but the other movie review. But he got stabbed in New York, part of some gang initiation. He survived, but he had to go through a lot of, great talks with great friends. He had to meet with counselors, to talk things out. And actually, he turned as a coping mechanism. What he turned to is to kind of stand-up comedy. Is like he would go up on stage, not necessarily I take away the word comedy, but he would stand up and he would tell his story to people, in a public setting, and then that was his way of coping with what had happened to him and to keep his sanity about the whole thing. And I don't know, I'll just share it, but like even in my life, like my wife and I were going through a difficult time, and just very, very recently, and just to kind of cope with me, I'm meeting with a dear friend like every week to talk things out, and I'm meeting with this counselor, and it's good to have somebody who's like wise and knowledgeable to help you talk things out, to have you gain some perspective, and so I think in this movie, there's huge trauma going on with this couple in Iceland, and they've lost a child. And so some strange events happen that I think because they're isolated, they don't really have people to talk to bounce ideas off. They can't really get their feelings out. They make the wrong choice. They make a choice that cannot lead to fulfillment. They just can't. So, yeah, watch the movie, you'll see. Well, there's no way this word's working out. It can't work out, but they make that choice. Yeah, and this movie explores some really interesting ideas.
Well, and I've got to preface everything I'm going to say about this movie with the fact that, you've got all your streaming services, right? And I've got like Hulu and Netflix and Paramount, and so I'm going there. Yeah, we're going to do Lamb. So I go, well, it's got to be on one of these 5 services that I have.
Has to be.
Oh, no. If you want to see Lamb, you have to buy this other service to see it. Or
Showtime.
Or you can purchase the film for $16. So I'm not going to get Showtime or whatever Gene just said. It's playing on for free. Because I'm one of those guys that when I do that, I'll just get it for this and then I'll cancel it immediately. No, never do. I just keep paying indefinitely. But so I bought this thing, and I'm sitting here watching it, and everything Gene has said about it is absolutely valid. It is all about unresolved trauma and isolated. They're isolated in this farmhouse.
Iceland.
In Iceland, right. But as I'm watching
the sheep farmers, isolated, just husband and wife. That's it.
As I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, really what this movie's about it's a movie about insane people doing insane things. Because basically, the opening of the film is you're going through this kind of snowy Iceland area. There's like some horses. They run from whatever this thing is that's kind of approaching them.
Right. There's this heavy breathing creature that's walking on this desolate plain. It's foggy, windswept. It approaches a herd of horses. Of course, they see this creature and they run. But you are the creature. Like you are seeing through the creature's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he goes into the barn where all the sheep are.
Right.
Mates with one of the sheep. And then that's really the last you see of this entity until the last 3 minutes of the film. And so what is it?
But it builds suspense because you're kind of like, or it adds the questions like, well, what is this entity? Is it going to come back? You know, like, how come it didn't? I thought it was going to go into the sheep pen and just slaughter all of them or something.
Well, that would have made a better beginning than what really happened.
Because he just seemed to go in there and then he just leaves. And then the sheep are out of their pen and the door's open. And
right. And
it's gone.
You know, Gene is hinting on a movie that could have been great. The setting that's there, this movie could have been more of a siege film where this entity is trying to get this this creature that it's created with this sheep-human hybrid weird thing. But what really happens is you enter into the world of the insane people that live in this house, where they're talking about time travel and, going to the future. And then the woman's like, well, no, it would be better to go to the past. So they're setting up to this trauma that Gene's talking about. Later on, you discover that they had lost a child.
Ada was a child's name.
Ada. And so there's all that trauma that Gene's talking about. But what occurs is this sheep gives birth to this sheep-human hybrid. Head of a sheep, arm of a sheep, or hoof, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the right arm is a hoof, like a sheep leg.
And I'm sorry, I'm watching this because, of course...
But the rest of the body is pure human.
Human, yeah, but of course, it's just... They then start treating this like it's their own child, like a replacement child. They call it this Ada name.
They call it the same name, Ada. Yeah.
And I'm just like
they bring the crib out of the barn.
They do. They absolutely do.
The crib goes right next to their bed.
And again, that's why I just go back to, it's really a movie about just insane people. Because it's like, what is wrong with you guys? And
you kind of knew at the beginning, like, they had made a choice, but you kind of know at the beginning, this is not the correct choice.
No, not at all.
This cannot end well.
It's just...
It doesn't.
And I'm sitting here watching this going... Well, thank God I own this movie because I can't imagine how many times I would have to watch it to get to this deeper meaning that this movie thinks it's got there, because I don't think there really is one. I legitimately believe it's just this film about two insane people being insane. But they start raising this sheep-human hybrid, but the sheep, the mother sheep from the barn, is all upset about this.
Yep, the mother sheep goes and bleats like crazy underneath the window where they're living.
Mm-hmm.
So the mom, Numi Replace, she's the woman that stars in the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series films.
Swedish films. And then,
yeah, she comes out with a rifle and she just blasts that sheep.
Right, she ends up, there's the scene before that where the sheep is actually trying to lead that weird monstrosity out into to nature, to the woods, right? Remember that? Because the kid, Ada, had kind of left the house, right? And they're all looking around for it. And then they find, this sheep, the mother sheep, is taking them out into the woods or the plains of Iceland or whatever, because...
Yeah, the hills of Iceland.
Yeah, you're supposed to be out there in nature. You're not supposed to be dealing with humans like this
You're not supposed to be inside.
And so that mother, she ends up just blasting that sheep and burying it.
She buries it.
And right at that time, the only other character in this film, which happens to be the brother of the woman's husband, who's like this ne'er-do-well. He was like a musician for a while. He just kind of floats around. He gets dropped off in the middle of nowhere.
Did you notice, though, his friends drop him off in the middle of the road, nowhere, but they pull him out of the trunk.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly, yeah. So it's just like,
And they're not nice to him. They pull him out of the trunk. He was in the trunk. And they throw him out.
Throw his phone.
Throw his stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And then they just speed off. It's like, I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And more than I'm done with you is like, I'm just an inch away from killing you, but I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to drive you out here in the middle of nowhere in the car trunk. And I'm just going to dump you. That's what I feel about you.
Well, and the only thing about that is it did set up like, oh, here's this intruder on the farm, and now maybe we're going to get some serious horror, right?
Right.
But no, it turns out, nope, that's the guy's brother.
They see each other. Oh, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Give each other hugs and just like, because tension is building, and all of a sudden it just doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, it goes away because he's like, but the tension kind of goes back up when he's like he's calling him out. He's like, what's wrong with you two people? That's an animal. It belongs in the barn, basically. Right. And he, at one point, takes the Ada sheep-human hybrid out, and he's going to blast it.
Because he has a gun with him.
Yeah, and then there's like this close-up of Ada's little sheep eyes looking at him and close-up of his little eyes looking at hers. He decides not to shoot it, and then the next scene is they're sacked out on the lazy boy watching TV or whatever.
Yeah, and he's asleep, and Ada's in his arms.
I'm just like, this movie, man, it's insane. There's all this stuff you can talk about some movies, and it's A24. And the thing to say about A24, I like when you see original content. Very few studios want to tackle movies like this, and so I appreciate that. But my God, I'm watching this thing going, this movie is just ridiculous, dude. It's just ridiculous.
Like, it did seem very comical. It's like when they're all sitting at the dinner table and all of a sudden they bring out Ada. And Ada is the sheephead. She has a sweater on, and then with the left hand is just a hand. But the right hand is a hoof. But it just seems so comical because it's just right there in the open. It's like...
Yeah.
But it just kind of, I don't know. I see it that, because grief is a real thing, and I think a lot of people go through it, and they go through it poorly. Like, they don't deal with it. And I think the movie touches on mental health. And I think mental health is an issue that's grossly underreported and untreated in this country, if not in this country, across the world. But we're Americans. We live in America. So I'll just say in this country. People don't talk about it. It's not addressed. Is there funding for it? I think there are some attempts to do it, but it's just not really anywhere. People, you're on your own. In this country, try to address your mental health issues, and I think people get really messed up. There are really a lot of people out there that are really messed up. I mean, you look at them and they look fine, they look healthy, but no, their minds are.
Well, and I think this movie does also touch on the whole groupthink mentality too, where here you've got two insane people wanting to raise this monstrosity. The one guy comes in and initially is like, nope, that needs to die.
Yeah.
But then they're all like, oh no, we love this thing, and oh, it's our replacement child, it's this gift and all this stuff. And then he gets sucked right into it too and is suddenly on board with all that. I
think that brings up the point, though, because the line of dialogue goes something like this: is like the brother, the guy who comes in, he like says, like, what the hell is going on here? And then the father says to him, happiness.
Right.
And that just ends it.
Yeah.
But I think it also shows that, I think, to really help somebody through their mental health problems, you kind of have to, you can't just go along with it. You can't go along with their crazy idea or their psychosis. You have to be a voice of reason. You have to show alternatives. You have to be willing to have those conversations that could last a long time. You have to be willing to put in new insights and spend some time. And, if you call this person your friend, do you spend some time to help your friend? And I think this guy, the brother, was not equipped to do that.
No.
I think in his life, he had clearly he wasn't really a man of strong character or integrity. He tried to do some things, but I mean, his introduction to the movie is his quote unquote friends are they have him in the trunk and they're dropping him off in the middle of
Right.
the road in the middle of nowhere, and they just throw his bag at him.
Well, and
You know, I
almost
mean, what?
almost every scene he's in, he's lighting up a cigarette.
Right.
Alcoholic beverage is very close by.
Right.
You
He hits on the wife numerous
Mm-hmm.
times, and then finally she locks him up in the shed or something.
Right.
It's like, you pervert.
And then
What's
drives
wrong
him
with
away.
you?
You know,
Yeah,
says,
and she
"No,
drives him
we're
away.
taking you to the bus." That
Yeah, she takes him to the bus. He's about to get on the bus. She gives him some cash. You know, he looks repentant, but, you know, nothing's ever going to change. She just gets rid of him.
yeah.
And there you go. He's gone.
And so ultimately what Lamb really is, and it can be filed under horror. Gene's definition of horror, of course, is the desecration of the human form or whatever.
Right,
And
right.
certainly you're dealing with that. But as far as outright horror, it's only the last 3 minutes of this film where anything of real note occurs.
Yeah, yeah. And what I guess I am disappointed about the movie is it's just there's no like hiding, or it doesn't like build suspense the way it could. Like at the end, you know, the father is with Ada and they're in their tractor, and for some reason there are problems with their tractors. So is there some influence sabotaging their tractors? I mean, who knows? But they're out in the middle of nowhere and they're walking back to their house, right? Is that they're walking back to the house?
Mm-hmm.
Because their tractor, which is a new tractor he just bought, it's not working now. And all of a sudden he gets shot. You know, that gun that the brother had brought out to shoot Ada, he just left it out in the field. And so this other entity that we were with at the very beginning shoots the father, comes up close to him, shoots him again to kind of finish him off. And then we get to see this entity, you know, what's going on here. But I don't know, they in a way that was too shocking and to me or that they just showed it. They didn't build up to it.
No.
So they took away what could have been a powerful, dramatic moment, and it just felt kind of flat.
Right. This
Yeah.
thing shows up, impregnates that sheep, creates the sheep-human hybrid, and you really don't see anything about that creature again until the very end.
Yeah, if we could put more of that creature.
You know.
Well, yeah, Roger, you just go ahead and describe this creature.
Well, it's the ram, fully grown ram human hybrid.
Right,
really
it's
what it is.
The
Got
head of
the
a ram,
horns
the
and-
horns, the curved
Mhm.
horns, the head of a ram, total body of a human.
Mhm.
You know, it's kind of hairy, but it's a naked body of a human male.
And I mean
He's very muscular, you know, but smart. He knows how to use a rifle and use it well.
Yep. He
Yeah,
shot
so it's
that
fully-
dude right
fully-
in the neck. You know. So.
Yeah, he's fully intelligent. As was Ada, by the way. Ada was fully cognitively able as a regular human.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Couldn't communicate verbally.
Yeah, couldn't talk. But clearly was smart, because they would ask her things like, what was it? It's like, can you turn the sound on the TV or do something like that? And he does it.
You're right.
Ada does it.
And can dance and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but
he can dance.
I just think, Gene hit it on the head. The movie is touching on trauma, untreated trauma, unresolved
trauma.
But as far as a horror film goes, oh my God, the movie was sitting right in front of your face if you really wanted to go for it. And that would be, they take in this human sheep hybrid,
Right.
but that entity wants it back. And so it becomes like this siege movie where it's a lot more focused on horror and danger. Because this
Right.
really is a whole bunch of scenes of kind of nothingness.
Right.
And then here's the end. And, you know, I keep referring back to it. It's a movie about insane people, because that's the only thing I could judge from this, because your behavior is not functioning the way it should function when you're looking at what you're looking at right in front of your face. And just a very bizarre movie. I appreciate A24 for allowing a director like this to just say, hey, here's the story I want to tell. And they're like, we're cool with that. Tell your story. In this case, it didn't work for me at all, and there is no way I can recommend this movie to anybody.
Yeah, I think the slowness and the pacing of the movie, and that it's just that really there are just three characters in the whole movie, and really just the two of the husband and the wife. and it focuses a lot on. It's quiet. There's not a lot of dialogue in the movie, but I think that emphasizes the point of your mental isolation when you experience something like extreme grief or trauma to yourself. Unless you're getting help, you're mentally isolated, and unless you're unless you're getting help, that isolation it's going to really mess you up.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of, your mind is going to go into negative places, and you're going to make poor decisions, and that's what this couple did, and and so all that, the whole setting reinforces their what's the right word, but their whole setting, the whole movie reinforces again their isolation and their aloneness.
Yep.
And so it kind of makes sense that the choices that they make, because settings drive our choices, right, to many ways. So like what we're surrounded with, who are the people we have allow in our lives, doesn't that kind of determine who we are, right? I don't know. I think maybe sometimes we think we're all determinate. I'm my own man. Yeah, really? Right. Sure we are.
But I think Gene likes this movie a tiny bit better, but you're not recommending this movie, are you?
I think most people watching this movie, it might mess them up a little bit. I think I definitely like the movie better than Roger. I mean, is it a recommendation? Maybe.
All right, so
maybe. I think I definitely like it. Usually Roger likes movies, and I just
I mean,
we're flipping.
Again, appreciate what they're trying to do here, but to me, this was just a straight out. I just was laughing at so much of the stuff, but not out of nervous laughter because I was horrified or anything like that. It was just, this is ridiculous. This movie's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, in some parts were just pretty comical, like especially that part where, like I said before, he's wearing a sweater.
Right.
Because they were trying to make him into a human kid. And it was just comical because it's not human.
Right.
This is not going to work. But in their minds, they're thinking, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
The father said this is happiness.
So anyway, watch at your own risk. Please, God, don't buy the dang thing. Like
what I did is, I have to admit, I'm a little bit of a Yellow Jackets fan. I like the show Yellow Jackets. Yellow Jackets is on Showtime, so there you go. So I don't know, season 1, so Yellow Jackets, I watched it. But unlike Roger, I am good at canceling subscriptions. Like we had to watch Last of Us, right, on HBO, but the series ended. So do we have HBO now? Nope. Cancel that thing.
Well, good for you. Yeah, I've got who knows how many streaming services I have, but because my wife does the same thing. But
I think we canceled our Hulu too because I don't know. We found we weren't watching it very much.
Oh well, I've been watching Hulu more than probably anything. Well, and Paramount Plus, I really like.
I got no time for Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Unless you want to watch that Picard show.
Well, but they also have the entire classic series of Hawaii Five-0. So.
That is not a selling point for me.
Right, and it's well outside the realm of Gene and Roger talk movies. Gene,
can't you watch Waifu for free on that H&M channel?
I don't know. It's right there, though. All 12 seasons. Jack Lord, man. You can't lose with Jack Lord.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
But what are we thinking about next week?
Well, we were kind of like looking at a foreign horror, right? This movie is Iceland. The week before we did Martyrs, French. Maybe we can do, it's French, isn't it? The movie.
Well, if we're going to do Raw, that is also French.
Yeah, maybe we should do Raw.
And I'm okay with French. They're pretty extreme, so we'll do Raw next week. I think we're going to look at Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D. We've got a friend of ours that was horrified by that film, so we've got to get him on.
Yeah, we'll have him relive his trauma.
Yeah, we're going to bring that trauma screaming back home for him. And then I think we should do Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Okay, coming down the road. Okay.
Down the road. But if you've got any recommendations for us that you want to see us or hear us talk about, drop us a comment.
What was that one guy? He gave us said we had to watch what?
Oh, yeah, we do have the one comment. He wants us to do A Quiet Place. So
we can do
we'll
Quiet
probably
Place.
do that, too. So
Anyway,
we're just rambling now. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah,
we will catch you the next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.